Hello, everybody, and welcome to my live stream of my Financial Fridays. Super appreciate everybody being here and joining me for this weekly stream that I do. As a reminder, this is a weekly telecast that I do to really help financial literacy, help with mortgage questions and mortgage programs, and really just help you to get a better idea of your finances and how to grow and manage your finances and grow and manage your wealth appropriately. So really appreciate everybody joining me. What we're going to be covering today is a continuation of our series on financial lessons you should have learned in school. So first of all, shout out, because when you give me a chat comment, I give you a shout out. So thank you, Kathleen, for the hey John, appreciate that. I've been doing a series for the last month or two, periodically on these Friday live streams that cover the topic of financial lessons we should have learned in school. And today's financial lesson that I'm going to cover is credit cards. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. First of all, I think that credit cards are necessary, and I think they're really good. But you can use them in a way that's very, very bad. And it's really ugly how much people don't understand about credit and don't understand, more importantly, about credit cards and how to use them. So this is going to be Credit 101. This is my version of Credit 101. So I've been studying credit for the last 22 years. I've watched people use credit cards the right way and the wrong way. I myself have used credit cards the right way and the wrong way. And so I want to give some really basic education, but a lot of things that I don't even really realize on a regular basis, most people don't understand. And so we're going to dive in and talk about credit cards from start to finish. So whether you are 18 years old and trying to get your first credit card, or you're 38 years old and trying to manage or understand credit cards, this hour is going to be information packed for you. And I'm looking forward to having it be as interactive as possible. So if you have questions now about things about credit cards that you don't understand, myths that you've heard that may or may not be true, please post those into comments. I'll bring them up as appropriate so that I can make sure if I'm not covering it as part of the content that I can cover it. And if you're watching recorded, no problem. Just post your comments on here. I watch this regularly as far as the comments section and make sure that I'm providing feedback on any questions you may have. So let's dive in. First of all, why do I even want credit cards? You know, there's really a few basic reasons why you should have credit cards in the first place. It's a necessary part of building your credit profile. Now, what do I mean when I say it's a necessary part of building your credit profile? I mean that credit cards are actually a very large part of your credit in two ways. A credit card is part of your payment history, three ways actually. It's part of your payment history saying, how well have I paid my bills? How often am I paying on time or am I paying late? So that's number one. Number two is how responsible am I with my credit cards? Meaning, and I'll talk about the term utilization, but am I charging up all my cards or am I keeping a decent balance on them? That's the second big part of your credit history. And the third big part of your credit history is how long you've had relationships with different creditors. And so it's critical to understand that your relationship with different creditors has to do with how well you trust yourself, how well other people should trust you. And if you are 30 years old and your longest standing relationship with a creditor is, 6 months, then that's a really big problem. And so credit history is critical. By the way, I am in my basement and I am under hot lights and I forgot to turn on the air conditioner. So I am going to use my phone really quick and turn on the air conditioner here so that you don't see me sweat, because they say never let them see you sweat. So I'm not going to let you see me sweat. So hold on 30 seconds as I wonderfully log into my Nest and I change my basement air conditioner to turn it on. Okay, now I'm good. The air conditioner is going to kick on. You won't see me sweat. Okay, so the second reason why it's critical to have credit cards really has to do with budgeting strategies. Now, what do I mean by what do I mean by budgeting strategies? A budgeting strategy has to do with how you spend your money relative to when your income comes in. And credit cards, when used appropriately, can be a free loan to postpone when you're making your payments, and or an easier way to manage your monthly debt so that you're paying it all as one payment, and it makes it easier to manage your money. I did a recording, one of these Financial Fridays, I think back in May, on budgeting and how to do a family budget. And we talked about using your credit card to pay all of your bills and then writing a check once a month. So that is something that is critical from a budgeting perspective. And Penny says, wow, a basement, impressive. Thank you, Penny. I appreciate it. It's actually a finished basement at that. So I'd say it's a nice basement. I got my pool table right behind the camera. So thank you for catching on to that. Anyway, I like my basement. All right, so let's dive into what is the third reason why you even want to have a credit card in the first place. And that is to earn rewards. Now, is earning rewards the reason to have a credit card? No, but it is a valuable component when you're looking at, hey, I'm spending the money anyway. Think about if you have to spend money with your employer, and maybe you're in a job that travels a lot and you get reimbursed. Well, if you're getting reimbursed on a regular basis, put that money on a credit card, then you get all the benefits of the rewards that come to you. And then every month you get the money back from your employer that you use to write the check to pay the bill. So that's a strategy that makes it super financially savvy to use a credit card when you can use it for rewards. I'll talk about rewards in a couple minutes on kind of pros and cons of rewards. And is that a reason to get a credit card? I'm not so sure. But if you're spending the money anyway, especially when it's other people's money, having a reward account that can give you points for spending money that your employer is reimbursing you for, that's amazing. I have some friends who literally don't travel and spend any money because the husband works for a company that has him traveling a lot, and he gets all of the points and applies those towards their family vacations. So they don't pay for hotels, they don't pay for flights, they don't pay for rental cars because they're using reward points. And then the last reason to have a credit card is to get a discount on a purchase. Now, I'll be really careful when I talk about getting a discount on a purchase because it has crashed a lot of people's abilities to buy a home. So you walk into a department store and they say, hey, if you apply for a credit card today, we're going to give you 20% off of your purchase today. Now, let's stop and think for a second. Why are they doing that? Why in the world is a department store willing to give you 20% off of your purchase for signing up for their credit card? Because they know that you're going to end up using that, especially if things get tight. Hey, money's getting a little bit tight. Can't afford to buy all the clothes I need for the kids for Christmas. So I'm going to go ahead and shop at the store that I have credit at. And guess what? The store doesn't have as much at risk because the store is making the profit on the goods they're selling you. And so I want you to understand department store cards, and we'll talk a little bit more about them down the road or in a couple of minutes on what the difference is between a standard credit card and a department store card, because there's some pros and cons to those. But the bottom line is there's a huge value to getting discounts off of your purchases. Do not get a credit card to get a discount off of a purchase while you're in the process of buying a home. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Do not get a credit card to get a discount off of a purchase while you're in the process of buying a home. It can destroy your ability to get that home. Okay, so let's talk about what is the negative. Credit cards are not a way to help you buy things you cannot afford. Unfortunately, that's how a lot of people use them. As a matter of fact, the easiest way to get a credit card is when you are in college. And I actually talked about this a couple of episodes back, maybe a month back or so. And I said, look, if you want to apply for a credit card, the best time to build credit is when you're in college, because credit card companies will hand them out like water. The reason why is because, look, the average person that goes to college is more likely to get a good paying job, and therefore they're more likely to be a good client of that financial institution, and they can get their teeth into you early. Secondly, college students don't really have a lot of self-control. So they're going to go out and they're going to buy whatever they want to buy, and the parents often bail them out. So I have seen so many people get in trouble saying, oh my gosh, John, I went and I was at Best Buy and I was thinking about getting a TV, and they told me that I could, for $150 a month, I could get the TV, the surround sound, the satellite receiver. I don't know, anybody use satellite anymore? You get my point, right? I can get all of these things and it's only $150 a month. But I didn't understand that my monthly payment was only going towards interest, that I'm really not paying very much. And I'll cover that in a second on how the monthly payments work. But the bottom line is, do not use a credit card to buy things you cannot afford. You have to know that you have a game plan to be able to pay it off later. So for people who are worried, hey, I shouldn't use credit cards because I don't want to buy things that I can't afford later, you've got to look at the fact that the credit system worries when you can't trust yourself. So you've got to figure out a way to trust yourself and figure out a way to have that self-control. And we'll talk more about self-control in a couple of minutes. So my first thing I want to cover is, how do you get a credit card? And this really goes to the question, first of all, of how do you get credit if you have no credit history? How do I get a credit card, John? I have no credit history. So if you have no credit history, and you're in school, you should have an easy time getting a credit card. The first couple of weeks of going to college, it's easy. Go to your bank and ask them to open a student checking account along with a student credit card. Most major banks are going to do that for you, and they'll combine them into one account. So that's the first way. The second way is, a lot of department stores will allow you to get a credit card from them, even if you don't have any credit history. And here's why. Because department stores are not fronting 100% of what you bought. Now, I want you to follow along with me for a second on the math here. If I bought $100 worth of stuff at Kohl's and I used my Chase credit card, Chase is basically paying $100 to Kohl's, and they actually don't pay the full amount. I'll explain in a minute how the credit card companies make their money. But Chase basically is paying the $100. They're out the entire amount, and then you have to pay back Chase. But if you have a Kohl's card, the difference is that Kohl's $100 worth of goods was marked up. It only cost Kohl's $30 to buy the $100 worth of stuff. So if you don't pay Kohl's, they don't lose the $100. They only lose the $30 it costs them for the goods. And they get a tax write-off because they lost the $70 of profit as bad debts. So department stores don't have anywhere near as much to lose as banks do, which is why a department store is way more willing to pay for your, to give you a chance on credit than a bank. Okay, so something critical to understand. The other way is to get a secured credit card. Now, if you can't get a traditional credit card, and by the way, there are offers you're going to get in the mail that are going to be pre-approved credit cards. A pre-approved credit card means that that bank has pulled credit reports. Now you're saying, wait, John, I didn't give permission to pull credit report. You actually did. But that bank had pulled credit reports that were, Kathleen says, wow, very interesting. I don't know when you said that, Kathleen, but thank you for saying it was interesting. I'm sure it was. So it means that the bank has gone to the credit agencies and said, hey, I'd like to find 10,000 people in California who make over X amount of dollars, that have at least this kind of credit, have at least this kind of a job, and I want to get a list of those people. And then they mail out pre-approved credit offers. You get them in the mail all the time. But what happens is they're basically putting a pretty wide range on the people well qualified, not so well qualified, because they figure, hey, this is part of our marketing cost. We're marketing to try and get more people to do business with us, and they expect a certain amount of people to fail. They expect a certain percentage of the people to not be able to pay. So they set aside a reserve for bad debt. They set aside money knowing that some people aren't going to pay, which is why a pre-approved offer is pretty easy to accept. And if you don't have credit and you get one of those offers in the mail, take it. But understand, it comes at a cost. They know what your credit score was. They know that, hey, you're not really well qualified. And so I'm a little leery, but I'm going to give it a shot. But I'm going to charge you a pretty high annual fee. I'm going to charge you maybe an enrollment fee. I'm going to charge you a very, very high interest rate. But that's what it takes to get your credit built. So if you get a pre-approved credit card, read the fine print. Oftentimes they're super expensive. But if you need to build credit, do it, because it helps you to get established, to get your foot into the door. There's also things called instant approval credit cards. That's when you go to Kohl's and literally you sit in the keypad and you type in your social security number and they swipe your credit, your driver's license, and they say, oh, you're instantly approved. and then you can use the money immediately. You're going to find instant approved credit cards at places like Home Depot, places like Kohl's, Nordstrom, because they want you to spend money on the spot. They want you to spend more today than you were going to spend. So instant approval credit cards happen regularly in department store type of environments. Okay, so we talked about how to get a credit card. The question is, how many credit cards should I have? I think that maybe 2 to 3 credit cards at most is the best plan for most people. Here's the truth. You don't need more than that. Once you start getting more than that, you start getting a little bit confused on which ones you've paid on and which ones you haven't. So, Lori, I'm not sure what part you were talking about, Lori, but you said, oh, that's me. I'm glad that you can identify with what I was referring to. The bottom, thank you for commenting, Lori. The bottom line is, if you have too many credit cards, you're juggling too many things. You're keeping too many balls in the air. And you are trying to remember, hey, did I pay this one or not? Does this one close to the credit limit or not? Like, how much do I have left to charge on that one? There's so much stress involved with having so many credit cards. But I also think that having one credit card isn't enough to balance your credit history, because credit's built on your ability to manage multiple debts. But most important, credit cards are a rainy day fund for a lot of people. Now, I told you earlier, I do not want people using credit cards to buy things they can't afford. But look, when times get tough, when you're in a challenge and you've had some unexpected bills that came up, your car breaks down and you need $3,000 to fix the car, that's probably not the time you should go apply for a $3,000 credit card. You should hopefully have something as a reserve, as a backup plan. And so a credit card, I strongly recommend that you have money in the bank, that you have at least 3 months of your expenses in the bank as reserves. But the truth is, that's hard to do for a lot of people. So a credit card, when you have multiple, you can keep some of them as, hey, this is my emergency fund. If the car breaks down and I need to get the car fixed, then I'm going to use that credit card if I don't have enough money. Okay, so that's what I think about credit cards and how many you should have. We talked about pre-approved for a credit card. This one's a good one. How old do you have to be to get a credit card? So I'm going to move on for a quick second. I'm going to poll I got like a dozen people on here right now. So hopefully at least some of you are going to answer me. How old do you think you need to be to get a credit card? I will come back to that in a moment, but give me an answer of how old do you think you need to be to get a credit card? So we're going to focus on right now, how are credit card payments determined? So credit card payments are determined as each credit card company actually gets to pick how they charge you in a monthly payment. So what I'm showing you here is a ballpark of what I find most credit card companies are charging. So I've got 2 people who have replied to my question. I need a couple more. So how old do you have to be to get a credit card? I'd love to hear a couple of other people's answers. And then I'll show you what the answers are, and then I'll tell you the truth. So if you owe a lot, your balance is typically around 2% of the credit limit, or 2% of your balance. But let's stop for a second and think about that. If your credit card interest rate is 25%, which by the way is not that crazy of an interest rate. What I find is most credit cards are the really good ones, and really good times with low rates might be at 10, 12%. Most of the time they're 18 to 22, and in a lot of cases they're 25 to 30% interest. But you're paying 2% per month for your payments. That means that you're paying 24% of your balance every year. But if the interest they're charging you is 24%, you've paid 0 on your balance, because you're paying 2% per month over 12 months. You're paying 24%. Now, if they have a credit interest rate of 20%, great. So that means that 4% of your balance has been paid down every single year. That means that in 10 years, you'll have paid down 40%. In 20 years, you'll have paid down 80%. It would take you 25 years of paying the minimum to pay off that credit card. So when Best Buy says, hey, you can get all of these things, you can get all of this stuff added on here, and it's only $125 a month, it'll take you 25 years of paying $120 a month before you have paid that off. Remember that the next time you're looking at the minimum payment, and make sure that you're always paying more. So when your balances are lower, then you're looking at maybe it's a fixed dollar amount. Typically, they're not going to let you pay less than about $25 a month. And if you owe very little, if you only owe $20, your minimum payment is going to be the $20 that you owe. All right, so let's go back and look at what some of the answers are. So I have all three answers I have as 18 years old. So 18, 18, and 18. And the answer is you're wrong. I knew that's what everybody's going to say is 18, but here's the truth. Oops, let's get rid of Kathleen's comments here and go back to where I was. Okay, so here's the truth. My 14-year-old daughter and my 13-year-old son each have credit cards. Now, they don't have the credit card, but they have credit cards. So what we did is we opened up an authorized user account in their name. Now, if either one of them went, actually, my daughter went to Washington, D.C. 2 months ago. Now, my wife went with her, so therefore it wasn't that big of a deal because she was a parent chaperone. But if she had gone to Washington, D.C. by herself, we would have given her the credit card to take with her. In case of emergency, in case something happens, you have a credit card that you can use. It is in her name. It adds to her credit. My 14-year-old daughter is building a credit score today because we need to use that credit card for her benefit. If we never use it, it won't help. But if we charge periodically and pay down on it, you can have your child get a true physical credit card. You don't ever have to give it to them, but you can get a true physical credit card. And by the time they're 18, they have a built-in credit history. But here's the most important thing I'm telling mom and dad. Don't screw it up. You can literally ruin your child's credit before they're 18 by putting an authorized user card in their name and then screwing it up, charging too much, not paying on time and having late payments, and you actually give them a negative credit history. But authorized user accounts are a way you can do that. And so when we ask the question, I forgot to switch the question. When we ask the question, how old do you have to be to get a credit card? The truth is, I think it's 13 years old, maybe 12. You just are an authorized user on your parents' card, and you're already building credit. So that's something really important when I'm teaching how to manage credit and how credit cards work. Most people wait until they're 18. Most parents wait until their children are 18 to help them get credit. They can come at 18 years old with an amazing credit score and an amazing credit history if you just help them for a few years before they turn 18. All right, so how are credit card interest rates determined? Credit card interest rates are rarely fixed rates. Now, I say rarely, there are some, but they are rarely a fixed rate. Most of the time, the credit card interest rate is the prime rate plus some number. And the prime rate is determined by the federal government. The prime rate is what the Federal Reserve has been increasing since March of this year. So the prime rate currently is up at 5.5%. We've had a 2.5% increase in the prime rate since the beginning of this year. So the prime rate went from 3 to 5.5 in the last 6 months. We expect it to continue going higher. Most credit cards might be prime plus 12, prime plus 20, prime plus 25. So that's how you come up. Now you see the 12 or the 20 or the 25. Oh, that's my rate. No, it's not. It's the prime rate plus that margin. So that's what that extra amount is the plus. Now, there are some fixed rate credit cards, but they're very, very rare. So most of the time you're paying prime plus something else. So be aware of that fact and understand that in times like today, your interest rate is going to be higher because of inflation and because the Federal Reserve is raising the prime rate to fight inflation. So then we hear the term APR. And we say, what the heck does APR mean? APR is simply your interest rate, but the term means annual percentage rates. So your APR is the rate that you pay every single year to have that credit card. But you pay more than just your annual percentage rate. You also pay annual fees. As a matter of fact, sometimes you pay pretty significant enrollment fees. So watch out for the details. I'm going to talk a little bit about balance transfer cards, but I'm going to actually I cover it right here. I get a balance transfer card option. Is that a good idea? Well, usually they give you some time frame to say you have zero interest when you transfer balances for the next 12 months. Okay, you pay no interest, but they're charging you a balance transfer fee. Now, sometimes it might be 3%, sometimes it might be 10% of your balance. So you're paying interest. Kathleen had a good question. I'll cover APR in a second. You are paying interest on, you're not paying any interest if they give you a zero interest, but they're charging you a fee that you now owe that basically is equivalent to interest. And if you don't pay it down, you're going to start paying interest on top of that fee once it kicks in. And a lot of zero interest accounts, this is critical. A lot of you get department stores that say, hey, make no payments for a year, interest free for 12 months. But the fine print says if it's paid in full before the end of the 12 months, you haven't paid any interest. If you're not paid in full by the end of the 12 months, the interest backdates to the beginning, and now your balance shoots way up. They're catching you by appealing to your need for immediate gratification. I can buy this now and I don't have to make any monthly payments, and they're not charging me any interest, honey. Isn't that a good deal? The devil's in the fine print. Many credit card deals where they offer you zero interest for a period of time end up costing you every bit of interest from day one if the full balance is not paid in full by the end of that initial period. And people don't understand that. And then they wonder and they think, oh, okay, I got a year's worth of no interest and then I'll start making monthly payments. Most of the time, I can't say all, you got to read the fine print on all of them. But most of the time, the money that you think you're saving, they're charging you retroactively from the beginning. Okay, so APR. I'm going to go back and actually I'm going to finish talking about annual fees because I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here. And Kathleen asked me a question about the difference between interest rate and APR, and I'll cover that in a moment. So annual fees, that is upfront fees that you might pay like the balance transfer fee, but it's also a account maintenance fee. Hey, in order to maintain a credit card with us, you have to pay $100 a year, $50 a year in an annual fee. The better your credit, the better the terms you get on a credit card. So if you have great credit, you should not have annual fees on your credit cards unless it's a rewards card. Rewards cards often will charge you annual fees because they're giving you rewards. So again, check the details. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So now let's finish back talking about APR. Kathleen's question was, why is the interest rate always higher than, why is the APR always higher than the interest rate? Here's why. Because the APR takes all of the upfront fees you were charged and all of the annual fees you were charged and add them together to say, what if we took those fees and treated them as interest instead of fees? So if you have a $100 annual fee, then they're basically placing that $100 and saying, let's pretend that $100 was part of the interest that you're paying. Then you're going to pay this much as an APR. If you had a 3% balance transfer fee, let's pretend that 3% was interest, then that's added to the annualized percentage rate, and that makes the APR higher. The only time an APR matches an interest rate exactly is if there's zero fees charged anywhere. Otherwise, the fees are placed into the calculation of the APR plus the interest that you're actually paying. So hopefully that makes sense, Kathleen. All right, let's jump back over here. So let's go into the rewards cards. And let's talk about the pros and cons of rewards cards. And it's really simple. I'll actually cover number 2 first because I already started talking about that. And that is they often come with higher fees. Sometimes even come with higher interest rates. They're giving you an incentive. They're asking you to sign up. Kathleen said, interesting, thank you, appreciate that. So they're asking you to sign up and they're trying to appeal to getting you to sign up because I'm going to give you something in return. So you just flew on Alaska Airlines. And they're going to say, hey, before you get off, if you apply for the credit card now, we're going to give you a free bonus points that you can get on a future flight. Well, that's really targeted advertising because you're a patron of Alaska Airlines. You just used them. And if you apply before you get off, you get an extra special benefit. So that creates urgency in your mind. And you're saying, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to do it. But if I wait, I won't get the benefits. I need to do it. And people make an impulse buy. And so when they do that, people are not buying or signing up for the credit card for the best deal. They're signing up for the credit card for the rewards, for the benefit and the outcome. And the credit card companies know this. So they charge you higher interest rates often. They charge you higher annual fees often. So you have to weigh the pros and the cons. Now you're gonna save more if you use the rewards, which is the second thing, is make sure that you're really going to use the rewards, because we sign up for things, we get bonus points on it, and then we never use them. And the credit card company wins because they got to charge you a higher interest rate and or higher annual fees than they charge somebody that doesn't have a rewards account. You see how they get you? Because they're selling you on the idea of getting this benefit at the end. Most people never use their benefits. So the credit card company more than makes up for what they're spending on the benefits for the people that use them. Okay. So make sure that you know that you're going to use it. If you use it, you'll be better off. You will have saved more money with the used reward savings compared to what you paid in additional interest and fees on the rewards card. But make sure you're going to use it. And make sure that whatever system you get, the points expiration matches what you're going to use. If they say, hey, the points, your Alaskan Airlines credit card, I have no idea what their expiration is. But if your Alaska Airline points expire every year and you only fly using Alaska every 3 years, then that's not really going to help you out very much, because you're actually going to lose 2 years worth of the rewards. And who wins? The credit card company wins. The other thing to remember with rewards cards is it's rare, if ever, that the actual name on the card is the bank behind it. I talk to people all the time and I say, hey, I see a card that you opened up about 6 months ago and it's got a $3,000 credit limit and it's with Citibank. I don't have a Citibank card. Okay, did you open credit anywhere 6 months ago? Best Buy. Okay, that's your Best Buy card. Best Buy isn't a bank. Best Buy is partnered with a bank and providing the financing. If you get a Hilton Rewards credit card, it's not Hilton who's your creditor. Hilton is just tied to it and has a deal with the credit card company that helps to build the reward program. So be aware of that. Okay, so let's tell a story about utilization. Utilization is the difference between what you owe and what your credit limit is. And utilization is critical to the credit system determining your credit score. It's a huge component of your credit score. Now, I'm going to tell you a story that's going to help you understand what utilization is. And I use this story a lot. And it's a story of taking a 5-year-old to the dollar store. Now, if any of you have ever taken a 5-year-old to the dollar store, 5-year-olds have zero self-control. So a 5-year-old is going to walk into the dollar store with $5 in their pocket. Now, I'm making two assumptions here. The first assumption is that the dollar store really still only costs $1, because I'm pretty sure most dollar stores now cost $1.25. But let's assume for a second that the dollar store is really just $1, and let's assume that there's no tax. So a 5-year-old is going to walk into the dollar store with $5 in their pocket, and they're going to find 5 things that they have to have. I just have to have it. We all have seen it. We all have experienced it. And they're going to throw a fit, because they've got the money and they will find 5 things they have to have. Why? Because they have zero self-control. That's expected for a 5-year-old. It's not expected for a 35-year-old. So when you have a $500 limit on your credit card and you owe $500, that means you have no self-control. You're telling the credit system, I can't control my spending, and that I am going to spend every dollar you give me the ability to spend. Now, most people don't understand that, but the truth is that the credit system wants to know that you have self-control. So now we say, okay, fine. Let's go back to the story of the 5-year-old. And let's say, hey, Mr. 5-year-old, the 5-year-old says, hey, fine, mom, stop taking me to the dollar store. Like, I'm not gonna go there anymore, because that way I don't have to worry about spending my money. Well, that's like taking your credit cards and never charging on them. That's avoidance. You're not going to build credit history if you don't use your credit cards. Now, if you have great credit history, who cares? Keep doing what you've been doing. But if you're trying to build your credit, you need to use your credit cards to prove that, hey, I can go charge and I won't spend all of what I was available to spend. So avoiding the dollar store doesn't help. So then you say, fine. Take me to the dollar store, but only let me bring $2. That's like cutting your credit limit from $500 to $200. Now, when I go there, all I can buy is 2 things. Again, that doesn't prove self-control, because you're still spending 100% of what you're able to spend. And if you had walked in with $10, you would have found 10 things you had to have. So when you think about that, that's like you saying, I'm going to cut my credit limit. If they're mad because I owe $500, cool, then I'll just owe $200 because I'll lower my credit limit to $200. And that's all that I'm going to owe. But that does not help your credit. You're still utilizing 100% of the available money they loan to you. So what's the final solution to all of this this parable? The 5-year-old walks into the dollar store with $5 in their pocket and they buy 2 things, okay? Or 1 thing. It means that they had the ability to spend more money, but they chose not to because they had the self-control to stop themselves from doing it. That is why you need to keep high limits on your credit cards with low balances, okay? So is increasing my credit limit a good idea? The answer is 100% yes. The higher your credit limit, people misunderstand and they think, oh my gosh, John, I'm not going to increase my credit limit because if I do that, then it's going to look like I have a lot of room to get in trouble. That's not how the credit system looks at it. The credit system looks at it saying, you've got a lot of room to owe a lot of money and you have the self-control to not do so. So if you're given the ability to increase your credit limit, by all means do it. If you have the impulse to lower your credit limit, do not do it. So to kind of summarize this all together for this part of it, when you talk about using a credit card to build credit, it's about getting a credit card, charging 20% of the credit limit, and then make the minimum payment every single month. You don't have to pay more than the minimum. As a matter of fact, paying extra does not give you brownie points. So what you need to do is you need to pay the minimum. You charge 20%, you pay it until the final payment says, this is it, you're going to pay it off. And then charge it back up to 20%. And so you go up a little bit and then do down. You charge it back up to 20% and do down. It's about making on-time payments. It's about owing money so that the credit system knows that, hey, you're getting a bill every month and you're writing a check or you're doing the online bill pay. You're being responsible with that debt. That is critical to building your credit. Keep the balance never at 0 and never above 25% of your credit limit. All right. So what do you do if you get into too much credit card debt? Unfortunately, I've run into a lot of people who do that. A lot of people I talk to say, John, I need to pull cash out of my home in order to consolidate my credit cards. That's an option, but it's not my first option. The truth is now you're taking those credit cards and you're spreading them out over 30 years. Now, let's be realistic. It was going to take you 25 years to pay them off anyway, and you're going to pay a significantly lower interest rate, and the interest is now tax deductible. So is it better to pull out cash out of your home and pay off your credit cards than to leave a whole big balance on your credit cards? Financially, yes. But psychologically, have you learned your lesson? Are you going to charge up your credit cards again? It's the same thing when people talk about, should I consider consolidating my credit cards? Should I put all my credit cards into a personal loan? Look, you're still going to have the other credit cards. You got yourself in trouble. You owed too much in credit card debt. So if you consolidate those bills, have you changed the pattern that got you into the problem that you're in today? If you have not, don't bother. All you're doing now is freeing up a bunch of available credit that you're going to go up and charge up again, and now you're in double the trouble. You need to change the pattern. You need to change I don't know, is it how you deal with challenges in life and you have what do they call it? Shopping therapy? You go shopping. I'm not discounting it. I know it's real, but the point is you've got to figure out what's going on here, because if you consolidate your debt, it is not going to change the problem. But I'll tell you, there's another method to pay down your credit cards, and it's called the snowball method. And I really like the snowball method. And here's how it works. You take the credit card that has the smallest balance, not the one with the highest interest rate, because some people will tell you pay off their credit card with the highest interest rate. I don't believe that. Financially, I believe it, but psychologically, human nature, it's not the right way to do it. So let's pretend I have 4 credit cards, and one of them I owe $500. The next one I owe $1,000. The next one I owe $5,000, and the next one I owe $10,000. And the interest rate, hey, the highest balance card has the highest rate. So one would say I need to pay off the $10,000 credit card first, or pay it down, because that will save me the most in interest. But I think you start with the smallest balance, because I can throw an extra $100 a month at my credit cards. In 5 months, I will have paid off that $500 credit card. Now I take the $100 that I was paying extra, plus the $30 a month that was the minimum payment for that credit card, and I combine it together. And I pay that $130 on the $1,000 credit card. Plus I'm paying what I had been paying of $50 a month on the $1,000 credit card. I'm now paying $180 a month towards the $1,000 balance. In 6 more months, that one's gone. Now I'm taking the $180 a month I was paying on that one, plus the $250 a month that I was paying on the base payment for the $5,000 credit card, and I'm putting that together, and I'm paying almost $400 a month on the $5,000 credit card. So you're snowballing. You're taking what you were paying on the small credit card and you add something to it until it's paid off. You take that total amount, you add it to the next smallest card, and you pay that one down as quickly as you can. The biggest benefit to this is psychological. You see that you have completed and won. You have paid something off, and the numbers help you, because now you're stacking the payment. Now you're taking the extra you were paying and stacking it on top of the next one. So the snowball method, if you have questions about it, put them in chat and I'll explain it better. But I love the snowball method of paying off credit cards if you get too deep into debt. All right. What if I can't pay my bill, John? What if I lost my job and I can't pay my bill? The most important thing to do is to pick up the phone and call the bank. I don't care whether it's your mortgage, if it's your credit card, if it's your phone bill. Communication is your friend. Hiding is your enemy. Most people hide. Most people are afraid of answering the phone when the credit card company calls. Call them first. Tell the truth. Tell them when you can pay. Tell them you can't pay the full amount, but you can pay this amount. Anything is better than hiding from them. Nothing good is coming from hiding. So if you cannot pay your bill, whether it's a credit card or anything else, call the credit card company and tell them what's going on. They will work with you. They would much rather hear from you and know when they're going to get money than to not hear from you and wonder if they're ever going to get money. All right. So let's talk about credit cards versus charge cards. So an American Express is an example of a charge card, or at least the original version of the American Express is. A charge card requires you to pay the balance in full every single month. So they don't make interest off of you. They are simply charging the balance, and then you're paying off the balance at the end of that month. So it's required to pay it every single month. The original American Express card is that way. Most credit cards are not. But this leads to how credit cards actually make money. I think it's critical to understand that. And most people have no idea how a credit card company makes money, especially like a charge card where you pay it off in full every single month. Well, then why in the world are they doing it? And it's because they get money. They take a cut of what you charged in the first place. So if you go to a local store and you put $100 on your credit card, the local store only gets $97. The credit card company added $100 to your balance that you owe, but they only paid the store $97. So if you pay them back immediately and you pay no interest, they still made 3% because they charged the retailer. That's why you see sometimes there's a discount for paying cash, because if you hand somebody cash, they get all that money. The donut shop nearby charges 50 cents if you use a credit card. Why? Because donuts are, They're small ticket items and they get charged a pretty sizable fee from the credit card processor every time that they charge. They could raise the price of the donuts, but instead what they decided to do is say, hey, we'll just charge 50 cents extra as a transaction fee every time somebody uses a credit card. So credit card companies make money from the retailer by discounting or not giving them the full amount that was charged. So that's how they're making their money. Plus they're getting annual fees from you and they are getting the interest. So on a charge card, they're taking typically a bigger cut from the retailer, which is why you used to find a lot of retailers won't accept certain credit cards like American Express. They don't accept them because there's just too big. They only maybe get 95 cents on the dollar. Well, if you were getting 5 cents off of every dollar subtracted, I'd rather take Visa that only subtracts 3 cents on every dollar. So the credit card companies are making money through their processing fee, and there's actually processing fees on top of that too. So they're making money in lots of different ways, but specifically just understand the difference between a charge card and a credit card, that a charge card, you're not allowed to carry a balance. I already talked a little bit about this. I'll just go briefly with the difference between bank credit cards and department store credit cards. A bank is on the hook for 100% of the money or 97% of the money. The department store is only on the hook for around 50%, maybe even 30%, because they are actually the seller of the goods. So they've got the product that they bought for $30 are selling to you for $100, and they've got the $100 that you owe. Well, if you don't pay back that $100, they didn't lose $100. They only lost the $30 that they actually paid to buy the product. So a department store card is often easier to get, and often they're going to give you a deal on, hey, I'll give you a discount off of your purchase because they want you to get their account and start using their cards over and over again. All right, let's talk about prepaid versus debit cards. First of all, neither one of these fit into building credit, but a prepaid credit card can be valuable as a tool. First of all, you can give it as a gift to somebody, and you can say, hey, here's your $500 Visa prepaid gift card. Works out really well, except for the fact that the buyer of those gift cards are typically paying a service fee when they buy them. Now, you say, wait a second, John, I don't get it. If I buy a gift card to Best Buy, you can go to Safeway and you can buy a Best Buy gift card and you get a $100 gift card and it costs you $100. Why is that? Because Best Buy knows that that money has to be spent at their store and they've got a huge markup. So therefore they know that, look, somebody buys $100 worth of stuff, it only costs me $40. So I'll happily sell Safeway my $100 gift card for only $90. And Safeway makes $10. But Visa is not going to make a lot of money. Visa says, wait a second, I'm only making a 3% service charge on this. And Safeway is not going to want to sell the gift card unless they make some profits. So in order for Visa to afford to pay Safeway, Safeway is charging an activation fee. And it could be $2, $3, $5. I've seen on high dollar amounts, $10 of an activation fee. So just be aware when you buy a prepaid credit card, you're often paying an activation fee for it. It's wasted money. So why are you doing it? If you know somebody wants to shop at a particular retailer, give them the credit card for that retailer. You're going to save yourself a lot of money. Debit cards, again, debit cards have the Visa or MasterCard logo, but they're taking the money directly out of your checking account. One of the biggest benefits of credit cards is the consumer protection. This is actually another really big reason I didn't talk about at the beginning about why you should use credit cards. Fraud protection. If somebody steals your credit card, the credit card system, the credit card industry will protect you, and any charges that they make are not your responsibility as long as you file a fraud report within a certain amount of time. But if you use your debit card, that money comes out of your checking account immediately. Now, maybe you can have some fraud protections, but it's going to take a while to get the money back into your bank account, even if they agree that it wasn't your fault. The same thing with renting a car. Use a debit card to rent a car. They're going to charge $500 as a charge, and that money is going to come out of your account as a hold. But if you use a regular credit card, what they're going to do is they're going to make a request against the card to see if there's $500 there. and they're going to place a hold on that $500. But as long as you return the car within the time frame expected and you pay everything that's due, they release that hold and you never have to make the payments. So make sure you have a credit card. Even if you don't believe in credit cards, you'll need them for certain situations in life, like getting a hotel, like getting a rental car, that it's critical for the security deposit that you have a credit card. Because if you use your debit card, that money comes out of your account immediately, and now you have to wait and hope you can get the money back later. All right, let's talk about authorized user accounts. So I talked earlier about how you can help somebody that's not 18 years old by giving them an authorized user account. The truth is, if you don't have good credit, you can get added at any age to somebody else's account as an authorized user. You inherit their entire credit history. I had a client who was 24 years old, and he had a credit card for the last 22 years. And I couldn't figure out why. And then I asked him and I said, what do you know about this card? And he goes, oh, when I was 16, my dad added me to his account. Well, that account was opened when he was 2. He inherited the entire credit history by being added to as an authorized user. It is a way to give a boost to someone who doesn't have good credit. But you're inheriting that person's credit history. So if that account does not have really good credit, you could also be in pretty deep trouble. So that brings up another point. Should I cosign for a credit card? That's actually really critical to think about. Should I cosign for anything? And you need to realize that cosigning is putting your credit history on the line for someone else. And you have to decide how much do I trust that person? And if they don't pay their bill, it's going to impact my credits. Am I confident they're going to do it? Especially because there's probably a reason they aren't able to get their own credit card. And if you're co-signing for them, what you're really saying is, look, I know that the bank doesn't trust you, but I'll go ahead and trust you. And maybe there's good reason to do that, but maybe there's not. And so you need to be really clear in the fact that you're taking a risk. You're putting your credit history on the line for someone else, and that's a pretty high risk to take. Your better bet to help them is to make them an authorized user on one of your credit cards, and then don't give them the card. Don't trust them with the card, but you add them as the authorized user, and now they inherit your credit history. All right, a few miscellaneous questions before we get to the end here. So should I cancel a credit card that's no longer in use? No. Because another part of your credit history is the length of time you've had a relationship with creditors. And now if you have great credit and you have a lot of credit cards, at that point you can cancel it, that's fine. But you start canceling credit cards and now you've decreased your available credit. Remember I said earlier, available credit's critical because it proves you have self-control. But I do want to make it really clear when I talk about available credit and self-control, utilization is calculated per credit card. Let me say that again. Utilization, or the percentage you owe compared to the credit limit, is calculated per credit card. So if you have 2 credit cards and they both have a $500 credit limit and you have one of them maxed out and the other one is at 0, you would say, well, John, I have $1,000 of available credit and I'm only charging up $500. So that's 50% utilization. That is not how the system calculates it. You have one card that is 100% utilized. Now you have another card that's 0, but you have one card that's 100% utilized. And they're looking per credit card, what is your utilization? So be aware of that fact. Talking about balances and how much you owe, I get this question a lot. John, is carrying a balance good for my credit? It is if you need to build a credit history. If you have great credit, don't worry, pay off your balances in full. But if you're trying to prove that you are no longer unable to pay your bills. So let me say this nicely. You haven't paid your bills in the past, and the credit system is punishing you and saying, look, you haven't proven you can pay your bills on time, and you need to prove that you can. If you owe nothing on your credit cards, the system says, well, I don't even know now that you're actually able to pay your bills on time because you haven't actually paid any of the bills. Now, you're not late, but you're not late because you don't have a bill due. So you need to carry a balance in order to prove that you're able to pay on time. The problem is everybody says, well, John, but now I'm wasting money on interest and I don't want that. Interest is bad. Low credit's really bad. So choose your bad. Get a better credit score. Your life changes when your credit score improves, and your use of credit cards is a significant component of your credit profile. So make sure that you are using credit cards and that you are using them wisely. All right. Are there advantages to using a credit card versus cash? We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'll repeat again. Credit cards have some protections. Some credit cards extend the manufacturer's warranty, depending upon what you're paying for. If you're paying for some service in the future, and you say, hey, you're supposed to provide me, a whatever. I'm going to pay you $1,000 right now, and you're going to perform this service for me over the next 12 months. And then 2 months in, they stop providing the service. You can actually contact your credit card company, file a dispute saying they didn't perform what was expected, and they can charge that guy back and you can get your money back. They can basically reach into their account and steal the money back if you have a valid dispute. If you gave them cash, you got to go fight with the guy to get the cash back. And if he doesn't want to give you back, doesn't answer your calls, you're out. So there are some protections that are built in when you're using credit cards that you don't have when you're paying with cash. All right. Last question. If you have, guys, we have like 3 minutes left in the hour. I want to make sure I always end on time. If you have any questions about anything that I've talked about, please post them into comments. If you have any feedback or any aha moments, I'd love to hear about those in comments as well. If you're watching recorded, please post in comments and we'll follow up on them as well. So my last question is, how do I lower my rate on my credit cards? It's actually easier than you think. Call your credit card company and ask for a lower interest rate. Now, it's gonna depend on how well your credit has been kept up. If you don't have a good credit history, they're gonna laugh. They're gonna say, as a matter of fact, we were just contemplating calling you and raising your interest rate. But if you've paid well and you have good credit and you've been with them for a long time, they don't want to lose you as a client. So when you call them and say, hey, I want you to lower my interest rate, there's rules built in to banks that say, hey, when somebody wants a lower interest rate on their credit card, as long as they meet this criteria, offer them this. And if they're not happy, maybe you offer them that. And if they're really not happy, send them to a manager and they're authorized to offer them even more. So it depends on how long you want to take up the fight and how high you want to fight it. But absolutely, you can get a better deal on your credit cards. And you don't get what you don't ask for. So if you sit back and say, I don't know, they never offered to lower my interest rate, they're not going to. There is zero benefit. But if you threaten to leave and you say, look, I've got offers from other banks that have lower credit interest rates, I'm going to go there unless you guys can give me a lower interest rate. They don't want to lose your business and you get a lower interest rate. Gang, that's all I've got for you. If you have any questions, please post them into comments. Otherwise, let me just take a minute and summarize. Credit cards are confusing. And credit cards are scary for a lot of people. But the truth is, when used correctly, credit cards are a great tool that sometimes is better than cash. And it is imperative to help you build your credit by having credit cards. And people just don't understand how all of this works. I wish this was something that was taught in school. I'm doing my best to teach it, but I need your help in spreading the word. So if you know somebody who doesn't understand credit, or you just think they have kids and that the kids should get this information, anybody, I would love for you to share that with them. I just got a comment here from Kathleen. Such great information. Thank you, John. You're welcome, Kathleen. I appreciate it. Anybody else who wants to say how amazing I am, you get to see your name on the screen as well. This is just critical for you to share this information because people don't understand how credit works. People use credit wrong, and I want to help make sure that we can guide people the right way using their credit and use it in a positive way. So thanks, everybody, for joining me today. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. I don't know. Oh, what's happening with rates in the economy? It's right down below. So next Friday, I'm talking about what's happening with interest rates in the economy. And so I'll cover that next Friday, and we'll see y'all then. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.